look out, here comes the Spider-Man.
Or dear, 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 Spider-Man, Spider-Man, radioactive Spider-Man. Or living on the air, Spider-Man.
Okay, we're all speaking too softly.
Yeah.
Alright, so, we
good.
saw Spider-Man Far From Home.
We did. I think I've commented about this before, that I think a lot of us have, I think I've commented that I've said that I wasn't really much of a fan of Homecoming. And that, look, I didn't think that Homecoming was a bad movie. It's just the fact that it didn't feel like the Spider-Man that I've grown up with, or the Spider-Man that I knew.
Look, I liked Homecoming enough. I mean, it's not in my top 10 MCU movies or anything, but you know, I really enjoyed it. You know, Tom Holland is, you know, fantastic. You know, the times that he is Spider-Man. The humor's pretty spot on. You know, I found myself laughing. And oh yeah, Michael Keaton as the villain. He was awesome.
He was amazing. Like, that is probably one of the best parts about Homecoming. And like I said, and a lot of people are like saying that I really didn't enjoy Homecoming, but in my opinion, I really enjoyed Far From Home. And in my opinion, this is my second favorite Spider-Man movie, in my personal opinion.
To me, it's in fourth place. You know, behind Spider-Man 2, Into the Spider-Verse, and Spider-Man 1.
Okay. But, alright, so I think before we begin, we'll just give a briefing on what our opinions towards each film series that's come before, you know, the MCU, before they finally made the agreement. Disney, Marvel, and Sony made the agreement to finally bring Spider-Man into the MCU. So,
Yeah,
the Sam Raimi trilogy.
Childhood favorites right there.
Yeah. When it comes to the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, I always have like a very pure heart with that one. Like, I understand that possibly it doesn't hold up as great as it did when it first came out, but there's like something personal with me when I went to go, because I saw the movie as a kid, and you see, seeing Uncle Ben's death in that movie, this was the first time I actually saw death in media. Like, you know, in a way, this is the first time I ever saw a death scene in, like, you know, anything from the fictional characters and stuff. Yeah, I'm not joking. That's the first time I ever saw it.
Because I'm pretty sure you've seen some family films that did have death.
Yeah, but I think I don't remember it, or I didn't recognize it. Like, usually I think possibly I saw some action series, like something on Disney or Cartoon Network that did have death scenes, but usually it's off screen. This is where you actually see the body, and you actually see the person moaning about seeing that person in death. And I'm not kidding, when I was a kid I cried. Yeah, no admitting that. I really cared about Uncle Ben. The guy who got to play Uncle Ben definitely pulled off a great performance playing him.
Oh, definitely. And you know, let's try to speed up a bit.
Yeah, so, yeah, the first Spider-Man, Sam Raimi Spider-Man,
Pretty awesome.
Pretty good, yeah.
Spider-Man 2 is one of my all-time favorite movies.
The first time I saw Spider-Man 2, I saw it multiple times. I saw it with my brother, I saw it with some of my cousins. You know, it was one of the movies that you had to see a lot in theaters. It was really popular for one thing when it came out. And then there's something interesting with Spider-Man 3. Before, we already know that it's not considered the best in the trilogy.
I mean, it's flawed, but I can still find a lot of good things about it.
Yeah, so interesting enough, technically there was already, this was the first time I read about fans, you know, trying to see what's going to come up. with Spider-Man 3, because I remember seeing fake trailers for that movie and saying something that it was going to involve Venom. I knew who Venom was, and I didn't know like what he did or what was he part of, because I was really young still. My brother kind of explained to me, but it was a very detailed explanation about it. And then when the official trailer came out, everyone was just like, "Oh my gosh, this is possibly going to be like the best Spider-Man movie ever compared to the last two, because they're putting in Venom." Because I don't know, for some odd reason, people were obsessed with Venom. For some odd reason.
He's a popular villain.
I understand he's like a popular character, well, at that time, because, that was, like, people were wanting to see him in the third movie. Well, not only did we get him, but we got him in the most strangest of way possible. And the first time I saw that movie, I liked it fine when it came out. Like, I thought it was fine, I thought it was okay.
And I'm going to be honest, I get a laugh out of emo Peter doing a Saturday Night Fever strut.
Okay, and this is where we get to the point of like, so does it have flaws? Yes, Spider-Man 3 has flaws, but
I mean, structurally it is flawed.
Yeah.
Some villains are taken out of the picture and not heard from until later on.
But here's the thing, a lot of people think that's possibly because of Sam Raimi, but in all honesty, no, it wasn't his fault. Technically, he didn't even want Venom in the movie.
In short, executive meddling.
Yeah, like he said that it was basically, Venom was put in the last moment just to please fans, and he was technically going to have a simple story. He technically was going to leave Venom for the end of the movie, kind of like a post-credits scene, which I think this was before Iron Man came out, or after?
Yeah, it came out a year before Iron Man.
Yeah, so they technically were going to do that, but obviously they couldn't. But like I said, I honestly don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's probably an alright movie. I mean, people keep saying that everything about it's bad. Like, I'm just like, this is possibly one of the most best action scenes in the movie, first off.
And look, let's be fair here. Would you really put Spider-Man 3 among the likes of, say, Superman 4 or Catwoman or Fan 4-Stick?
Or even the Roger Corman Fantastic Four. Yeah, that one really blows. Alright, so, but like I said, in my opinion, if you want to see Spider-Man 3, I actually saw later on the director's cut, and I think... Editor's cut of the movie, and the editor's cut, in my opinion, is a better version of the movie. They do cut all of the really bad stuff that usually people complain about,
not really.
I've noticed that they cut like all the long things, or they cut certain things, but they also added things that felt more emotion. I felt like the scene where Sandman was trying to connect with his daughter in the park, that felt like, you felt like there was more emotion there, considering he only saw her in like one scene of her like in her house, and the whole thing being him a bad guy and stuff. But like I said, Sandman, for example, best superhero birth that ever happened. Like those shots of him just coming out and like the sand, it was like, it was very, very good.
Actually, I think even detractors of the movie admit that was a really great scene.
Yeah, so Spider-Man 3, okay, the Sam Raimi trilogy, good, great, it's okay.
And now the Amazing Spider-Man duology.
The Mark Webb films. So...
I enjoy them just fine. It's just, I don't know, in hindsight, it's not exactly my favorite iteration of Spider-Man.
I mean, it depends. Here's the thing.
Okay, I'll name the best thing in the Amazing duology, and that's the romance between Peter and Gwen Stacy. That's some good stuff right there.
Yeah, like, in my opinion, when the Amazing Spider-Man movies were coming out, I thought it was kind of weird at first, because it was only just a few years or 10 years later.
5 years.
5, that's even worse, to be fair. Only 5 years later till, like, the last Spider-Man movie. But to be fair, you could argue that Sony just wanted to, like, fix everything that was in the third movie.
Or rather, I think they wanted to just retain the rights to Spider-Man license. Yeah, and weirdly enough, it had some kind of way it was directing itself. For example, a lot of things were trying to get along. For example, the first trailers, a lot of people got confused because it was going to focus on Peter's parents, and I think that was the plot of the movie at first, but then they changed it up and tried to just go for the regular villain and stuff.
And to be fair, we got a very interesting Spider-Man. We got Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. In my opinion, is pretty good.
He's pretty good.
He's pretty good as Spider-Man, and I'm surprised he can hide his accent very well for an actor. Like I didn't know nothing about the actor, but I heard he was a British actor. I'm just like,
well, okay. He was an American who was raised in Britain.
Yeah, and like he was trying to hide his accent and stuff, and I'm just like, okay, it worked really well. It worked well enough, and like he was a really good performance. Obviously, he's the more Spider-Man, where when he gets the mask on, has attitude. He mostly just likes to be cocky about everything, and sometimes it could get people in trouble. Like there's this one scene where he's trying to shoot a guy, and he's messing with cops. That's basically what his Spider-Man version. But in a way, the beginning felt like a very carbon copy of the first Sam Raimi movie. And then, it did its own thing towards the end. The Lizard Man, he was an alright villain.
But if they if they added in those scenes, with showing us why, Kirk Connors wanted to grow his arm back, we would have actually sympathized with him. But no.
No, I mean, even for how much silly the Sam Raimi movies are, you can at least put out that you at least remembered every line or just every character that was in those movies.
Who's the photographer who takes the pictures of Spider-Man?
Peter Parker, smart but lazy. And you knew this
Brilliant but lazy.
Brilliant but lazy. You knew this was coming, Pete. And
also, I like being bad. It makes me happy.
Yeah, like, even for the goofiest and dumbest of all with the Sam Raimi films, you have to admit, you remember everything about them. And also, J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh yeah, and J.K. Simmons absolutely killed it as Jameson.
Yeah, he was basically like, who are they going to get for the next movie? Like, when the Amazing Spider-Man movies came out, we were all thinking that.
But we never had him.
Nope. Because they didn't even went that far. And to be fair, the Amazing Spider-Man movie was decent. It was okay for me. Like,
and
it had good action scenes.
And I do enjoy Amazing Spider-Man 2 enough, even if it's very messy and also focuses more on setting up a cinematic universe, which never happened after.
I'm pretty much with everybody else. It's probably the worst Spider-Man movie that ever came out.
Yeah, one of them's got to go at the bottom.
Yeah, and that movie felt like a super big commercial to me. Like, it just went, if you look at the poster of that movie, it's just Spider-Man next to a building. And that is probably the most laziest poster I've ever seen of a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, but the posters from Far From Home aren't any different.
Oh no, I understand what you mean, but at least you saw who was going to be in the movie. And hey, the first poster with Spider-Man face and all the stickers and stuff, that was a cool poster.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah, and also the fan posters somehow are better than any of those movies.
Alright, and let's see. After the Amazing Spider-Man films, we have Into the Spider-Verse. Let's keep this one brief.
Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse.
One of the best movies of last year.
Best Spider-Man movie ever.
It's almost there for me. Like it's
how dare you?
It's right behind Spider-Man 2.
Why? It's animated, and usually animation does so much more. And dude, it had Spider-Pig. It had Spider-Pig.
Spider-Ham.
Spider-Ham. It had Nicolas Cage as Spider-Noir. How can you put that not in the top right there?
Look, I love this movie. Heck, if I ever make, like a list of my favorite movies of the decade, it's definitely going to be high up there.
Yeah. The animation was amazing in that movie, first off. Mixture of everything. It was old style animation. It was CG animation. It was comic book style animation. It even had
comic book style visuals.
It even had a little bit of anime. Hideo Kojima actually put that out in his Twitter when he saw the movie. And I just noticed that, yeah, it does have some anime elements in it. But like I said, I can understand if people don't put this on their top list just because even though it's a really, really good movie, it just has still crowded things in there. Like too many Spider-Mans or just...
No, I think it focuses on just the right ones. Like Miles Morales, he's our main protagonist.
Yeah.
Peter B. Parker, he's the deuteragonist. Spider-Gwen, you know, she's, I guess, the tritagonist.
And the comedians are basically Spider-Noir and Spider-Ham.
No, but Noir Spidey, Spider-Ham, and Penny Parker, they're just there for the ride.
My favorite scenes are probably when Spider-Noir is explaining his backstory, just like, I tried to lit a light and see if I can burn myself with my fingers. Oh. and then Spider-Man just going crazy, like, I jig and I big and I dance and I sing.
No, it's I frolic and I dance. I do this with my pants, and then gets cut off.
And of course, best line that every single animator is gonna argue with everyone who hates animation.
You got a problem with cartoons?
Just, yeah. Is there a nitpick? One, I felt that Kingpin was kind of a weak bad guy in that movie.
Actually, I think they give him a good enough motivation as to, you know, why
yeah,
he's
but
doing
like,
this.
remember, this is supposed to be like the Kingpin from the comic books, and yeah, Kingpin from the comic books kind of acted like a baby, but it felt like this was the Daredevil's version, the Daredevil's Netflix version of Kingpin. While he's threatening, he kind of is very childish in a way of what he was doing, and just like he got so distracted towards everything. But yeah, like, and also a lot of people thought his design was a little weird. Like his neck was like this.
He looks so hunchback.
He looks like a hunchback. He looks like this throughout the movie. I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's like so weird.
Anyways, let's talk about Far From Home now, since.
Oh yeah, we've already speak about Homecoming, so let's talk about Far From Home. So, Spider-Man Far From Home. At first, I was a little scared because after Homecoming, I thought, okay, we're not going to get a big-time Spider-Man movie anytime soon. Never going to happen. We just have to wait some more. This is it. So, to my surprise...
Let's be fair here. After Avengers Endgame, we needed, you know, a breather episode, and Far From Home does just that.
I mean, didn't we already get a breather with Ant-Man and the Wasp after Infinity War?
Yeah, you know, that was a big movie, but so was Endgame. So after something big, they need to scale down a bit.
Yeah, but even for the scale down, we still got a pretty damn epic Spider-Man movie.
Absolutely.
And so, okay, the plot of the movie, we'll tell you when we get to spoilers, because I know there's going to be spoilers at some point, so but we'll just talk about the movie briefly.
Okay, well, all right. I think I can describe it. So, after the events of Endgame, Spider-Man goes on a class trip to Europe.
My Aunt May.
And meanwhile, Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D. Recruits Spider-Man to help out this mysterious man named Quentin Beck, also known as Mysterio, to take care of these interdimensional creatures that are running amok.
A lot of people thought it was Sandman or other Spider-Man villains, but it was just basically just a bunch of other things. But we'll get to that later. So yes, so one of the things I really like about this movie is the fact that, weirdly enough, Peter Parker acts and thinks before he does something, and is using his brain to try to figure out what he can do in this situation, almost like he's supposed to be Spider-Man. Gee, I thought I would get that with the first movie, and that was kind of my problem with the first Homecoming movie. Like, while I understand he's supposed to be a teenager, he's still pretty young, he's not the experienced Spider-Man yet, but he still, I remember reading something and like saying that he's supposed to be really smart even when he was a teenager. He thought of something and thinked before he took his action, and he tried to come up with plans and even trying to make some stuff with his suit. Like this one, they already put out the point that Tony invented his like, you know, machine and even his costume, which I don't know if I'm going to get over that, but like, it's just the fact that that's kind of how the character was. I understand they had to change it because, you know, we already had 2 movies already just dealing with that stuff. No one wants to see that anymore. But I have no problem with Homecoming and its story. They went with the right direction. They had to go that direction. They had to make differences, but I also felt that he was very weak in the movie. Like, I know a lot of people are probably going to complain about this one and with me here, but look, I really did not feel the whole Spider-Man when, you know, the scene where, you know, the Birdman, what was it? Vulture, because he's just Birdman. Like, might as well just call him, like, the Vulture, like, drops a whole bunch of concrete and metal at him, and, like, he's just crying, like, someone help me, I'm stuck and trapped. I'm just like, yeah, our hero, everybody. Like,
oh, so he's not allowed to be vulnerable.
No, but like, yeah, I understand if he's gonna like cry about it a little bit, you know, just feel the pain and stuff. But like, isn't Spider-Man supposed to be like strong enough to lift a car? Like,
Chris, Chris, that scene pays homage to that one moment in the comics where he gets buried under this pile of rubble.
Yeah.
And was contemplating on, you know, giving up and just dying. But then he decided, you know, to just rise up and just lift the rubble with all his might.
Yeah, but
yes, that's what that scene in Homecoming
I understand, but they obviously changed it a little because they added the whole Iron Man thing in there, and a lot of people, I don't know, I don't think no one complained about that, but the whole like him being the, and that's the one thing I think possible hardcore Spider-Man fans argue about, that Tony Stark is the representation of Uncle Ben instead of Uncle Ben actually being there. And he's not even mentioned, which is weird because don't you think Uncle Ben is literally the major reason why he became Spider-Man in the first place?
Well, I mean, personally, I do wish, you know, the writers at least mentioned him a bit.
Yeah, they know.
We only got a hint of it in Civil War.
Yeah, like that's the thing that I have. Like, don't you think? He's legitimately the reason why Spider-Man even exists, and
like maybe they really did, you know, set up his motivation in Civil War, where he did his own take on the "with great power comes great responsibilities."
Yeah, nobody wants to hear that again.
You know, he says something like, "When the bad things happen, they happen because of you."
Yeah, but I don't know, like, I want to get back to that at some point, but let's go back to Homecoming. Like, and I felt with Homecoming, maybe this is the one thing that I felt I was kind of wrong with Homecoming, that even though he was hurt, I think I would have accepted it more if there was more at stake at that point. The only stake he had to deal with was trying to impress Tony Stark and trying to stop the Vulture. That was pretty much his drive towards the first movie, and it felt like pretty much just a very low drive that didn't feel like that great. Yeah, there was the whole girlfriend thing, but that was pushed aside right at the end of that movie.
Remember, Homecoming is a lower stake movie. You know, like Ant-Man. You know, they're not dealing with something world-threatening, just something more locally.
Yeah, and this is where I think that Far From Home does it way better. He does get injured again, and he does cry again, you know, because he's still vulnerable. But here's the thing: there's more of a drive of why he feels the pain. Not only did he lose his mentor, but now his friends are possibly going to die, his family's possibly going to die, and people he cares about, or innocent lives are possibly going to die. And that's what I feel like, you know, yeah, you would be in pain if that was going to happen. You would feel like you kind of need to let it out just to make sure you'll be ready to face him. And that's kind of the thing. With a character, for example, I think, no big surprise, Mysterio is the villain of the movie. And the trailers made him look out to be a good guy in the film.
And actually, you know, for a while, I did believe, you know, he was telling the truth, you know, about coming from another dimension that was destroyed.
And people thought it was the whole Spider-Verse thing, you know, like, you know.
Of course, there was a bit of foreshadowing, because he called the Marvel Cinematic Universe Earth 616, which is wrong, because that's the mainstream comic universe, while the MCU is Earth 199, 999. So I think that was the first indication of Mysterio being a fraud.
That's actually like very smart. My brother didn't even figure that out. My brother actually found out. I went to go see with him the movie. He found out that I don't think he's a good guy, because the scene with the bar scene kind of felt very weird, because why is he wearing that costume when he's in a bar, and like, is no one going to answer that question?
And also, since the elementals are all taken care of, where is this going?
Yeah, you're wondering that, and all of a sudden, and of course you find out, oh, he's a bad guy, he's still the bad guy. And I want to say this right now, I don't care what everybody says. Look, I understand, you want to be like the comic book, you have to be if you change Spider-Man's costume, which they did with the Amazing Spider-Man the first time, if you want to change the costume a little bit, that's fine, but like, you still want to keep it Spider-Man, because the Spider-Man costume is considered the most iconic costume of all time. But Mysterio, like, oh my god. The moment I saw him on screen, I just laughed to the floor, because, I'm sorry, the fishbowl head is distracting. Like, I could not take that man seriously with that costume.
You're kind of missing the point. You know, he's playing some kind of different persona.
Yeah, but he's supposed to be I understand, he's supposed to be an illusionist. He's supposed to be like a guy who's a mystery. That's why he's called Mysterio. Oh, it's also a very cool thing that like they named him Mysterio after hearing it, and like in the news, like that. Like that's actually kind of a cool way, instead of just, you know, very natural way of how he got his name. But I don't know, it's just the fishbowl head thing was just like very distracting to me, and every time he wore that costume, I'm just like, even he admitted, like, okay, get this stupid stuff off me. Like, just like,
look, this is in the same universe where we have a gun-toting raccoon and a talking tree.
Yeah, but they look badass. Thank you. They look badass, but they even make it more ridiculous when Peter's fighting him, and like there's a scene where his head becomes a snow globe. I'm just like, oh, yeah, would you look at that image right there and say, yeah, this is one of the greatest Spider-Man villains of all time. He's trapped in a New York snow globe in his head. I'm just like...
Remember, he's controlling, you know, a figure, you know, that's somewhere else.
Yeah.
So he's not actually in the field. He's controlling something.
Yeah, but still, that image, just Spider-Man inside a snow globe head. So just like that's more ridiculous than the fishbowl thing.
Come on, remember in the season 1 finale of Gravity Falls where Gideon was wearing a motion capture suit to control his giant robot?
Yeah, but that was a cartoon, and its tone was silly anyway. This is supposed to be the adult version of the Spider-Man series. It's fine in a cartoon, but like in an
adult. This is a lighthearted movie.
A lighthearted movie that before this was Endgame, which was really, really sad and really dark. Like, yes, Marvel has its lighthearted moments, but they try to balance it with its, you know, moments of trying to be drama. Like, this is still supposed to be, you know, hard for him. He's still getting in pain and everything. Like, and just seeing him with the fishbowl helmet, I don't know. I guess maybe I felt like they should have changed the helmet, because this design was made, I think, in the 50s or like
60s.
This was made in the 60s. Like, why on earth did you have to keep the costume the same? I mean, yeah, they make a few changes. Like, yeah, his costume's a little different than the comic, because supposedly he wears like a pinkish-greenish costume. Like, you know, but like they could have changed the helmet a little bit. They could have made it like a warrior helmet, or maybe a magician's helmet.
Dude, who cares? The point is, he's doing an act.
I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal was still really good as him. Like, yeah, and a lot of people were just a little weird about that. Like, Jake Gyllenhaal. Like,
you know, funny enough, when Tobey Maguire was still Spider-Man, there was a time where he was almost recast with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, that's interesting to know. And also another thing, Tom Holland actually made a list of, when he was becoming Spider-Man, he made a list of what actors he wants to work with in movies, and the top list was actually Jake Gyllenhaal.
Really?
Yeah, I actually found that out on an Instagram tweet from him. Yeah, it's actually very interesting. Fun facts that you usually find online, and that's actually pretty cool. Now, the one thing I do want to say, what's their great things about, like, Far From Home? The action.
The action.
CG.
And then there are
really good.
And even better, there there are times where I actually felt Spider-Man's pain, you know, when he gets hit. Like there's this one part where he's holding this tower from falling with just his webs, but then he hits his head with a bell several times.
That's actually more comedic than really, you know, pain, honestly.
It's still painful. I mean, even
three times,
even for a guy with super strength.
Everyone was kind of like chuckling in the theater, just going like.
and during the climax, you know, his costume gets damaged.
It's ripped, and there's like saws everywhere, like slash and everything.
And even at one point, you know, he runs out of webbing, so he has to find another way to get up to where Mysterio is.
I mean, he can still climb anyway. Like,
yeah, but he needed a quicker way to get up. But.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. Like, I felt with this Spider-Man, there was much more. This is the one thing that my brothers say that is the most important thing about Spider-Man, where it feels like his life is on the line. That's the one thing, the element of Spider-Man that makes him Spider-Man. Yeah, he's a really awesome and powerful character, but he's still human. And if he gets in pain or if he's hurt, his whole costume is full of blood, slashed everywhere, or like he's on his last leg, like he's almost about to die. That's basically that's kind of the reason why my brother prefers the 1990s cartoon over the one with the Spectacular Spider-Man. Because he says that with Spectacular Spider-Man, he did feel like there was danger, but it didn't really felt like he was going to die. He felt that with the original 1990 Spider-Man, it felt like he was more at stake. Like he felt like he could actually die in any moment in any episode, which my brother felt. And this kind of the same way in the movie, kind of like the first Sam Raimi movie. You did, like in the end when he's fighting the Green Goblin, you saw all of these bruises, scratches, and just like, oh my gosh, it felt like he was in intense pain, like he couldn't survive.
Yeah, we haven't really seen that in the last few Spider-Man movies, including in some of his other MCU appearances, like, you know, in Infinity War, you know, Thanos, you know, punches him, but we don't really see his costume get damaged.
Almost like Thanos kind of gave him a little pat in the back or something. Not even an Endgame either.
I mean, Spider-Man did look, you know, bruised a bit in Endgame.
A little, but not to the point like it felt like his life was on the line.
Although, maybe it's because the Iron Spider suit is made
protecting him.
Yeah. Is made out of nanotech.
Oh yeah, that's something I want to mention. The trailers lied to you. We thought we were going to get a scene of Spider-Man fighting a bunch of villains in a restaurant, but we never got that scene with him in the metal spider suit.
It's probably a deleted scene.
A deleted scene that we should have had. A lot of people complained about that in the movie. Even one reviewer, one of a well-known reviewer, even complained about that.
I'm not too bothered by it.
Yeah, but it was a very cool scene. So are there anything? So one thing how many positives did I say? The action.
What about the supporting characters?
The supporting characters. I like his best friend. His best friend is a very good character, and he comes up with the best stuff. And Flash Thompson. At first, I was thinking like, okay, here's the bully. Like, let's just get this over with. But no, you find out that Flash is actually a little deeper character and actually a fun character.
Yeah,
for one thing.
He's actually given a bit of character development because, for one, we find out from what little we see that he has neglectful parents.
Yep, and not only that, but he's actually fun to be around. As much as he's like a dick to Peter. Like, we see that he's a fun character.
And you know,
like, he takes photos, he live streams everything, and he's acting like a person. Like, you know.
Yeah, you know, he's less of a bully and more of an annoyance.
Yeah, and even some shots at him, he still kind of has deep respect for Spider-Man. He's just like, he's a cool guy, he has a dope suit, and I really respect him. Sup, dickweed. Like, yeah, because he doesn't even know who Peter is, you know, still. But weirdly enough, in one trailer, he pronounced it dipweed.
No, buttwad.
Buttwad for some odd reason.
I think some versions of the trailer replaced that line.
I guess they wanted a kidly version of the trailer. I don't know. Like, I don't know why they replaced the line because it still wasn't the other line. The first line was still in the movie.
Okay, let's see. MJ.
MJ. Here's the thing. MJ MJ is an awesome character, and in this version, in this particular version, for example, she's played by Zendaya, and I think I know Zendaya way more of an actress.
Let's clear this up. This is not Mary Jane Watson. This one's an original character for the MCU.
But she's still technically MJ.
Yeah. The name is more as a tribute to Mary Jane.
Well, understandably, I guess this is supposed to be a much more down-to-earth, realistic take on MJ. Like, she doesn't have the red hair. She doesn't have any of her iconic clothing. She just basically.
It's like Morgan Stark from Endgame. There actually is a Morgan Stark in the comics, but
he's different.
Yeah, but first, the character in the comics is a man and also Tony's cousin, while in Avengers Endgame, Morgan's a girl and is Tony Stark's daughter. So she might as well be an original character made for the MCU.
Oh, I did not know that. I thought Tony Stark just plainly had a daughter in the comics.
Well, I don't know about any offspring.
Yeah, and also elephant out of the room. Yeah, Tony Stark dies, in Endgame,
and it actually plays a role in Peter's arc.
Yeah, and also, oh my gosh, just everybody was laughing when the memorial thing happened in the beginning of the movie because
I wasn't sure how to feel about this. Having a memorial of the Avengers who are now dead, and also while that Whitney Houston song is playing, and I'm like, oh, it's a school video. Of course it's gonna be cheesy.
I know. It just felt so, and everybody when everyone just saw Iron Man, just and Captain America. Well, it's weird. Here's the thing. I don't think Captain America's dead. I think people think he's gone because he went back in time. Because you do see him as an old man.
He probably died of old age between.
No, it's already confirmed from a lot of. If you look at the tweets, it's already confirmed that he will show up a few times in the story.
Don't rely too heavily on outside sources.
No, it's not an outside source. It's officially from the Marvel. It's officially from Marvel. They say.
Do the movies say anything about it?
No, nothing yet. But
okay.
Still,
then that's really all that matters.
Yeah, but still, I don't think he's gone because, like I said, he does have a part as an old man in the comics in certain ways before he dies. That's the one thing I know about it. But then when everyone saw Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, everyone was just like, "Oh, son of a!" It's because everyone didn't want her to die. Oh, and we're somehow still getting a Black Widow movie even after that.
It's gonna be a prequel movie.
Yeah. Okay. Prequel. Why? So late.
I mean, what do you think? We're gonna see 2 hours of a corpse?
I know what you mean, but what? Why have we been waiting so long for a Black Widow movie? Don't you think we should have gotten it during the middle of the MCU?
Development problems, so I heard.
Very, very.
Okay, but we're getting off topic.
All right, and now we'll talk about the blimp thing.
Hold on. You still finished talking about MJ?
Well, here's the thing. I love the character MJ. She is a really cool character here, and I know about the actress Zendaya. I actually know her more than he does. I've seen her in a few projects. I've seen one of her music videos.
I liked her in Homecoming. She was one of the more amusing parts of the film.
Yeah, though she kind of had a very minor role, and we didn't even know she was MJ by the end of the movie.
Her name's Michelle, but MJ's her nickname.
Yeah, and it's just very interesting. A lot of people say that this is probably one of the best things they could do in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, have different versions of one character instead of just keeping them the same all throughout the entire movie. Yeah, and like I said, I've seen Zendaya. She's a decent actress. I thought she was okay in Shake It Up, the series, because I used to watch that a little bit. She was in a music video, which I thought was pretty good. She did a few cameos in certain other movies, and I thought she did a decent job in those. But her to be a main character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, supporting character is pretty damn good. It's a pretty damn good. And to be fair, she does have some development with Peter and their relationship. But this is one of the nitpicks I have with the movie. The relationship felt a little bit too fast for me. Like, yeah, there was kind of a development in Homecoming, but not
Well,
enough for me to
well,
like, oh, I
well,
want to see
actually-
these characters get together.
Well, actually, more of a tease.
Yeah.
That's finally explored here.
Yeah, that's finally, but it's still kind of not enough in a way. I felt like if they really talked to each other, like if they had like an hour, 2 hour long conversation about like their lives, how they're different from each other, what are their likes, their dislikes, you know, and stuff, I would have felt it more. But just them like kissing in the end and just like, I understand it's not supposed to be like the really big time thing, but like it just felt a little forced to me. Like, you know, I understand he's injured, she's coming to his aid and stuff, and you know, they felt very vulnerable and felt like they want to be with each other but still not. Like it's still
How about Happy and Aunt May?
So I want to go with Happy first before I talk about Aunt May. With Happy, I don't know. A lot of people say like, why is he still here? I mean, didn't Jon Favreau just doing this just for each paycheck that he gets at once?
No,
like,
I don't think so.
Like, because like if Jon Favreau, and yes, he's directing The Lion King, and I'm surprised he managed to do this movie when directing that movie. Like, he kind of still had a lot of scenes in this film, so I don't know why he managed to direct that movie while also doing this. So
I like that scene, you know, before the climax, you know, where they're talking about, you know, how much Tony's death affected them both.
yeah, like, you know, they had a friendship, and to be fair, yes, because Jon Favreau directed the first Iron Man, which started the whole MCU, and clearly everybody should give him a big applause for starting probably one of the greatest superhero movie franchise ever. But still, like, don't you think he's pushing himself in these movies for no reason just because he's like...
Who says he is?
Like, no, it's just like, what does he honestly do besides help Peter out? Like, does he do anything with other people besides backing off with Nick Fury bad-mouthing or just giving some advice to, like, Tony Stark? I mean, all he is a guy in a plane just, and also trying to hook up with Aunt May and stuff right now in this movie. Like, yeah, he picked up Peter and stuff, and he's always there for me. I guess you could say he's kind of like now one of the caretakers of Peter Parker. But at the same time, it felt like Jon Favreau's doing this because he wants to be in the movie.
I mean, given how he felt towards Peter in Homecoming, you know, he started to warm up to him. That's why, you know,
He treated him like a pain, like in the first movie. I remember that scene.
I mean, he's pretty much affiliated with him now.
Yeah, he is, and he pretty much listens to him. He doesn't just be like, you know, the big adult, like telling him, oh, you can't do this, you're still kind of uncooperative. He knows he's smart, and he knows that he can handle himself. He even lets him make his own new costume. And yeah, the new costume is pretty... I love the new Spider-Man costume. It has the wings and stuff. That actually reminds me of the Spectacular Spider-Man. Like the costume from the Spectacular Spider-Man where he has the wings and stuff.
He had the underarm webs in the comics, too.
Yeah, I didn't, oh, he did? Well,
Yeah.
I don't know why he didn't have those in a lot of the previous Spider-Man movies and stuff.
Who cares?
Yeah, like and stuff. And also, we
the-
also get probably one of the best superheroes of all time, Dark Monkey.
Night Monkey.
Night Monkey. Like,
Okay, but back to, you know, the new suit. The red and black design is actually a nice tribute for you know, both his creators, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, which the film was dedicated towards.
oh yeah, highly, because, you know, they were like the most inspiring.
Yeah, because, you know, if you looked at, you know, the early Amazing Spider-Man comics, his costume was actually red and black. The blue is actually, you know, the shading and such.
Yeah, that's actually pretty impressive. And in such ways, like, I feel like this new costume pretty good. And yes, we get Night Monkey. That just came out of nowhere, and everyone was laughing at the theater when that happened. Like, okay, so there's a scene where Mysterio, well, Peter still thinks he's a good guy. He's fighting off all of these monsters and stuff, and they're like taking him out, and like, and Spider-Man, and like everyone's thinking like, and then Spider-Man's like wearing the dark, you know, stealth costume and stuff, which I don't know if that was in the comics, or was it?
I don't know. Maybe it was made for this movie.
And you can also get it on the PS4 Spider-Man game.
As well as the upgraded suit.
Yeah, like, you know, he's stealthing and he's supposed to be like not to be seen by anyone, and then
And,
what happened? You find out his best friend.
Ned and Betty are on the Ferris wheel, and Betty thinks that's Spider-Man.
And he's like, is that Spider-Man?
No. It's a European knockoff called Night Monkey.
Okay, really? It's just like, Night Monkey, help! I'm just like, and there's even another scene where they mention it, where Spider-Man's trying to get into like another stealthy way, trying to find out where Mysterio is using his stealth suit, and then there's a woman passing by him and just like, excuse me, can you help me out here? Oh my gosh, it's Night Monkey, and she was running away. I'm just like, what is this? What is this? To be fair, is this part of the? I want to know. Is this somewhere in the comic books? Because I like to know if there's actually a Night Monkey Spider-Man.
I think that was made for this film.
I hope so. I wonder, because that was probably the best original thing they come up with them. And I'm going to officially call that costume Night Monkey for now on. To bring it back.
Same here.
Really.
So we talked about Happy and now Aunt May.
I have issues with Aunt May.
All right, I want to talk first. From what little we've seen of her, she's out of focus and far from home. She does have signs of being, a loving motherly figure towards Peter.
I had that problem with him here's the thing. I think, in my personal regards, when it comes to Aunt May, and even the Spider-Man movies, Aunt May, yes, she's supposed to be an elderly woman in the comic books, in the movies, and stuff. And I understand by each movie she's younger and younger. But just the way they portrayed her in the MCU the first time, I'm just like, this is not going to work. This doesn't work one bit. Like, here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with Aunt May looking younger, but think about it. She's supposed to be a woman who raised Peter Parker. She's supposed to be a woman who cares about him, tells him right from wrong, raised him like his son. And the way that they, the way they did it in the Sam Raimi films, the Amazing Spider-Man film, they gave dignity to her.
Okay.
Remember the lines that she gave to him?
Need I remind you that Marissa Tomei is in her 50s, which is, the right age to be an aunt.
Yeah, but think about it. What do you remember about the Aunt May in the first Sam Raimi film? What were the lines that she said about to Peter?
That speech about how people need a hero like Spider-Man.
You're not Superman, You're not Superman, And he says, when you went up to her and walked to her, you said, Aunt May, is that an angel?
That's debatable.
Yeah, and just the way she spoke, that actress, great job. She did a wonderful Aunt May. Even in the third movie, she did a great job as that character. And also, just that scene of her finding out that it was possibly Peter's fault of what happened to, Uncle Ben.
Oh yeah, that scene. She had no lines right after Peter confessed. Just walked up the stairs.
In a way, she's mad at him, but at the same time, she's very sad to know the truth. Mm-hmm. And I felt like, yes, that makes total sense. And even in the Amazing Spider-Man films, I don't remember much about it, but she was still trying to feel like she was raising him. She cared about him, wondered where he was, and
Actually, from what I remember, I think this Sam May is a more frustrated one.
More frustrated, but still.
Especially in Amazing Spider-Man 2, because it's mentioned that she has to work at a hospital, also doing other things to help pay for Peter's college tuition.
Yeah, and she's doing that with care. And what do we get with the MCU one? We just get, sure, yeah, this for one sexy lady, I'm just like, thank you. I'm just like, okay.
What? You're confusing how people react towards her with her character.
I'm just like, who is this character? Everybody just treats her like oh my gosh, she's hot. And even fans are just like, oh, we get hot Aunt May. Jeremy John jokes about her hot. I'm just like, is that all she is? Is that all she is? Who is this?
Are you forgetting what I just mentioned? She's trying to be a loving mother figure.
Eventually, yeah. Because in Homecoming and in Civil War, I'm just like, I wasn't buying anything out of this.
And also, in one scene in Civil War, she sees Peter all bruised, not knowing about the Germany fight, and she tells him, "I hope you got a few good licks in." She's telling him, "I hope you fought back a bit."
Yeah, just I don't know, I felt like she should have given lines in a way, try to talk to him, because who is Aunt May the character? She's supposed to be a motherly figure to Peter Parker. She's supposed to tell him right from wrong. she's the reason why Spider-Man makes really good decisions and telling him like advise, telling him like he has to do in a way do this. And even in versions like Spider Noir, there's this one part in Spider Noir where he doesn't know that he's supposed to be Peter Parker. She just knows him as Spider Noir. When he's shooting down bad guys and killing out bad guys, she's like, "Am I supposed to be thanking you for doing this, murdering people?"
No, but that's a different Aunt May.
Yeah, but still, that's how Aunt May the character is. She knows, yeah, superheroes are supposed to do their jobs, but they're not supposed to be the same way as villains and killing people. And she even tells that, not to Peter Parker, but to Spider Noir, which she doesn't even figure it out yet. So even her, as a character, is still very great character, does the right things, know when to tell someone off when they're doing something wrong. What does this Aunt May do? When Peter is like, there's a scene in Homecoming where Peter, is down on his luck. He's completely in pain, and he comes back home because, he loses his suit. He's in pain. You know what she does? Yeah, I'm sorry, Peter. Let me hug you in this awkward hug that like you're a stranger to me.
Dude, are you forgetting that she's yelling at him? She was yelling at him, wondering where he has been, but then quickly shifts gears when he tells her he lost the Stark internship, and instead of kicking him while he's down, she comforts him.
Yeah, but such in an awkward way. Like that's how you comfort the person you've raised. Like if we're raised with, like, she doesn't even look at him. She just looks at him like.
And also, don't forget, there was an earlier scene in Homecoming where she's trying to bond with him.
Yeah, but like I didn't felt like there was a connection with them. I felt like she was treating him like an awkward son that she just got out of the street. I don't know, like I didn't felt anything in Homecoming. In Far From Home, we actually do get something. By the end of the movie, she's wondering, like, are you alright? Are you okay? Did you get hurt? Like, she's actually treating him like a son. Like, oh, I was so worried about you.
And also, she sneaked in a Spider-Man costume when he didn't want it.
There! Like, that's all you needed in Homecoming. That's all you needed. Why didn't you have that in Homecoming? Why did you wait until Far From Home just to do all this stuff?
Because this was before she found out he was Spider-Man.
Still had to raise him as a kid. Still had to raise him anyway. But just the way that she does, though, to be fair, I do find it in Homecoming hilarious the way she found Spider-Man. Which I do wonder if there's like an R-rated cut of it where you actually do see her say, "What the F?"
You're allowed one F-bomb in a PG-13 movie.
Yeah, which is, I don't know why they bothered to cut out that scene. I understand it's supposed to be.
It's funnier if you cut it. If you cut it at just the right moment.
And even Tom Holland's reaction is perfect. Like at first he's like so impressed, but then when she hears Aunt May, he's like opening his eyes, just oh shit, like oh shit. It was just so funny, just the way just like epic music takes off his head, and it's like oh, what the. It's like oh my god. But you kind of do wonder, what did she feel when she found out he was Spider-Man? Like.
Okay, I mean, judging by that reaction, she freaked out, knowing her nephew is Spider-Man.
Yeah, but we never get an even aftermath of that. No post-credit scene, like although How It Should Have Ended kind of had their own version of it.
What, where Cap knocks her out with his shield, saying language?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe we didn't need a scene. I think his Spider-Man's first scene in Infinity War, we see him, getting dressed up, putting his web shoes on, meaning Aunt May has accepted that her nephew is Spider-Man.
And like he could be in danger, and he treats it like it. Even during when he's doing like the performance, and he's saying waving to all these audiences and people. Also, Spike from Cowboy Bebop, the live-action Spike from Cowboy Bebop makes a cameo there.
What?
Well, the actor who's going to eventually play the Netflix's Cowboy Bebop.
Wait, which actor?
I forget who's the actor who's going to play Spike Spiegel in the live-action Netflix.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, I forgot his name, but I know his face, and I knew he played one of the reporters, and he was just like Spider-Man, everything like secret and stuff, and like and yes, the relationship between Happy and Aunt May, it just comes out of nowhere in a way when you think about it, and even by the end of the movie they joke about it like, are you two dating? Like,
and each one of them gives their their take on it. Happy says yes. Aunt May is all, maybe not.
Really? And they're like arguing, like, wait, what? I thought we had like a thing or something like going on. Maybe he's gonna be his new uncle or something. I don't know. That could be in a future film. And okay, so now let's talk about like the most.
Awesome. So we're done with the main portion of the movie.
Yeah, the main portion. Now I want to get to the point. One of my favorite scenes in the movie, the effects. The scene where Spider-Man has to face Mysterio.
Actually, the whole nightmare sequence that is gold. Right
That is like visual masterpiece in my opinion.
Also, Zombie Iron Man. Now that's a good image.
Well, that's basically a tribute to like the zombie verse of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
But Zombie Iron Man. Now that's an image that sticks with you.
Yeah, like, he's talking to him in the set. I'm just like, wait, can Mysterio do all this stuff? Like I said, I only knew Mysterio the character, not what he does.
Remember, they're all illusions.
They're all illusions, but it's more advanced than before. It's all CG and everything. I understand it's all CG, but it's done so well. The multiple, like, Mysterios, the way he's like a giant size, which actually happened in the comic book. There was actually a comic book where where Spider-Man thought he was turned into an ant when Mysterio just grew big, but it was actually just an effect.
And also the PS1 video game where you fight a giant Mysterio.
Yeah, like that's just amazing. Like just the way he was scaring Spider-Man, and even after you think it's all over, you think like, oh, Nick Fury shoots him, and like, oh, everything's okay. Now Spider-Man's like, and then he's like laughing, like, oh, you are so gullible, Peter. I'm just like, oh, he's still there.
Yeah, he's just messing with his mind.
It's just like.
And then comes, Peter fighting these illusions. With that, I was thinking back to an episode of the Spectacular Spider-Man where, he fights Mysterio.
Mysterio shows up in it?
Yes, in the second season.
Huh.
Yeah, at one point, Peter decides to blindfold himself and rely on his spider sense to actually dodge or watch out for any actual physical threats.
Yeah, and he does that in this one too, but for some odd reason...
He does something similar to that.
I don't know why they did this. I understand they were trying to do this just to be funny, but for some odd reason, they called the spider sense in this version the Peter Tingle.
Peter does call it a spider sense. He's just annoyed with Aunt May calling it the Peter Tingle.
Yeah, it's like Peter Tingle, Peter Tingle, Peter Tingle. And then I'm just like, yeah, he's supposed to use a spider sense, and he does it very great. And I love Tom Holland's his acrobatics is really good in this movie. Like he's just smashing all the cameras and everything.
And this is where we go to that Spectacular Spider-Man comparison. In the last confrontation with Mysterio, he has to get past these drones, and all he sees is black. So he relies on his spider sense to take them all out, which is pretty cool.
He does that here, except he closes his eyes and uses his spider sense and stuff. And even still uses it after Mysterio thinks he's finally tricked him all the way through. Like the scene where Mysterio is like down on his luck, he's down like in pain, like, go ahead, finish me off. And then you see him grabbing it to the left and just like, oh, he's still standing. And then somehow Spider-Man bends the gun and somehow shoots Mysterio.
Wait, did he shoot Mysterio?
No, like for some, I don't know, it's like cartoon logic for some odd reason. Like he bends the gun and the bullet like swishes when he shoots it.
Okay, look, all I remember is that he used the spider sense to stop Mysterio from shooting him.
Yeah. Well, no, he got shot. Like Mysterio got shot.
Well, yeah. But Mysterio was still pulling one last trick.
And still, we'll get to that for a moment. There's still more to that scene than what you think. Yeah, and here's the thing. To be fair, was Jake Gyllenhaal really good as Mysterio? Yes, he was, and he was really good. Also, we even get more characters that eventually, and we also find out that Jake Gyllenhaal was, and actually, I don't know if anyone looked back on the movie, but if you look in the background of the actual movie Civil War, you can actually see a figure, a blurry figure with brown hair. I'm just like, is that Jake Gyllenhaal?
Okay, I'm pretty sure he wasn't cast at that time.
I'm thinking maybe.
Oh yeah. So remember in Civil War where Tony was demonstrating this machine that allows you to simulate, an old memory, but also modifying it. So, Far From Home, we learned that Mysterio invented it.
Yeah, Tony Stark invented it, and he called it barf.
I mean, Tony did say he needed to work on that acronym.
Yeah, he said, like, he calls my invention barf. It's like, and also, we even get a callback to the very first Iron Man movie.
Yes, a minor character
from the first movie. He says, Tony Stark invented a robot.
No. Let me quote this. Tony Stark was able to build this arc reactor in a cave with a box of scraps.
Scraps.
Yeah, that's the the scientist that Obadiah was yelling at. He was in Far From Home.
And he's the same actor too. I'm just like, wow, they managed to do this. They managed to thought this through way beforehand.
Yeah.
Like, and though there were some other characters that's also part of, like, you know, this plan too, but I don't think they were ever in any of the MCU movies. I think they just made them up as it went through. They only got like one actor just to like that's it. So yeah, this minor character ended up coming back, except not the rest of them. The rest of them are just people we just knew, but they are pretty good, I guess.
And also, a bit of a callback to the first Iron Man. You know, when Peter is making the new suit, Happy then plays Back in Black, which is the first song we ever heard in Iron Man.
Yep, pretty much.
And then Peter plays it for laughs, saying, "I love Led Zeppelin." Dang it, man! It was AC/DC, by the way.
ACD. Yeah, like it's just like, yeah. These people know exactly what, you know, they thought of this way before anything. They thought of the MCU. It's just great that they know everything, and it's really good.
I mean, they're not hiding the fact that Spider-Man's going to be the next Iron Man.
Yeah, clearly he's just going to be, you know, who he is.
Like the new face of the MCU or something.
Yeah. Oh wait, hold on. Should we get to the nitpicks, or should we get to like spoiler corner?
Didn't we already spoil parts of the movie already?
I mean, yeah, but we're talking about right now the biggest parts in the end of the movie. I think we should start with now some nitpicks or just negative things. I'll go first because I have super less to say about it, I think, compared to you. So minor nitpicks. Really didn't think much of the relationship between MJ and Peter. It felt a little bit too quick. Also, there were just some side things that I felt was not as impressive, I thought. For example, Nick Fury kind of feels like he disappears in the film almost. Like, he has a role in the movie, but it feels like he kind of disappears. Some of the scenes with the teachers and also maybe some characters that I don't really know. For example, I wasn't really fond of like this new character about, you know, that had the whole blimp effect where he turned from a young 5-year-old kid, which you saw in Homecoming, to a very old adult version. And he's supposed to be like the, how do I say, the rival between Peter and MJ.
Brad.
Brad, yeah. I'm just like...
fun fact, he's actually an obscure Spider-Man character. He dated Mary Jane in one issue.
Yeah, and actually, my brother was talking about this. There's a possibility that he might come back for a later movie because of the fact that it's weird how he's so involved into what Peter is and somehow thinking that maybe he's Spider-Man. Or that maybe why on earth is all this happening. Like, he's somehow super involved, and supposedly he might be the person.
Okay, just want to let you guys know, a lot of the recording at the end didn't make it. So.
Yeah, the moment I figured it out that the camera was turned off, like, you know, when we were recording, I was trying to look back a little bit, but we cut it out most of what we thought about, like, the post-credit end scene and all the stuff happening before.
Okay, I'll say this. The mid-credit scene blew my mind.
Blew my mind, crazy, you know, didn't mind the whole reveal about Spider-Man thing, pretty much. Scroll thing, okay, maybe Fantastic Four is happening, I don't know. Like, that's basically what we'll say.
Okay, I can't leave this out. I straight up squeed when Jameson popped up, and not just any Jameson. He was played by J.K. Simmons again.
Yes, J.K. Simmons. I loved it. So okay, overall, love Far From Home.
Yeah, it's Far From Home. Not just you know, a great breather episode after Endgame, but also served as a nice bridge between that and what's to come in the MCU.
So overall, here's my favorites in order for Spider-Man. The first one is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, then it's Spider-Man Far From Home. It pretty much kicks Spider-Man 2, but I still love Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 is number 3, and then it's the first Spider-Man. Have a personal thing with it because, you know, Uncle Ben's death in that movie, really personal to me, cried a lot. And then there's Homecoming, and then there's the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Actually, Spider-Man and Spider-Man, and Homecoming and Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
And then the Amazing Spider-Man, and then the very bottom, Amazing Spider-Man 2, basically.
All right, so from top to bottom, Spider-Man 2, one of my all-time favorite movies. Into the Spider-Verse.
How dare you?
It's at the very top. That's all that matters.
It's so better in regards.
Okay, Spider-Man 1, Far From Home, Homecoming, Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 2.
And before we end it here, I want to talk about something personal about Spider-Man. Like, why do you like the character personally?
Okay. Well, for one thing, Peter Parker is a very relatable character because, you know, of all the stuff he goes through. I see myself in his shoes now that, you know, I'm a grown-up and such. And he also has a very good rogues gallery.
Pretty much. In my personal opinion, it's the costume. It's just so iconic. I played a lot of the video games when it came out. That's
Same
really
here.
the reason why I got into Spider-Man in the first place. But there's also another reason, and I think it's from this quote right here in the original comics. And a short distance away, and a lean, silent figure slowly fades into the gathering darkness, aware at last that in this world with great power there must also come great responsibility.
And so a legend is born, and a new name is added to the roster of those who make the world of fantasy the most exciting realm of all.
I got that when I saw the first Spider-Man movie. I got that in Spider-Man 2. I got that with Spider-Man Far From Home and Into the Spider-Verse. I didn't get any of that with The Amazing Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, nor Homecoming, and not that kind of with 3 I didn't really get it at all either. So yeah. That's our thoughts on Far From Home.
Really
Catch you
good.
later.
Catch you later.
I think it would have been better if it was